Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I just wanted to give you a quick update on the DJI Spark. As of July 19th, 2018, there was a firmware release that had to do with the OTG cable. If you're not familiar with this, this is what a typical OTG cable might look like. The OTG cable basically connects your controller to your phone so you can get a better signal, better reception between the controller and the device itself, with a little less interference or signal dropping out. So in short, the firmware release was for the aircraft and the remote controller. The aircraft firmware update version 01.00.1000 and a remote controller firmware update version 01.00.0600. These updates are specific to go hand in hand with the DJI GO 4 app. If you're running iOS version 4.2.2.2 or DJI GO 4 app for the Android version 4.2.2.1. In short, it's actually a pretty brief description that DJI left for this firmware update. There's not a lot of information on it. I'll put a screenshot of what DJI posted somewhere up here. But in short, what it's saying is the firmware update added compatibility to use an OTG cable, which is this, to connect the Spark to the remote controller. And specifically for Android mobile devices, and I'll put a link to the direct DJI announcement below, so you can check that out in the description below. But again, it's a compatibility, it's an allowance for compatibility for the OTG cable to connect the Spark to the remote controller with an Android mobile device. So I typically fly with an iPhone, so this does not apply to your Apple iPhones. Again, it's specific to the Android mobile devices. So for me personally, I won't be downloading this particular firmware update because it doesn't benefit me from what I can tell, again, from the brief description that DJI provided. That's all the information they're really giving. There may have been some other fixes thrown in there, but they did not specifically spell them out, so I can only provide you the information as they're giving it to me. Just for reference, the last firmware update that DJI did for the Spark was about 7 months ago, back in December of 2017. And as of today, when I'm posting this video, I went on to I launched the DJI GO 4 app with the Spark connected. I did not get an indication that there was new firmware available for it, but that's typical. They typically release the software at various intervals throughout the country or throughout other parts of the world. So I may not see it on my DJI GO 4 app quite yet, and it may show up in a week or two. So I'm not surprised by that, but just a heads up if you don't see it immediately, as I didn't either. But again, I'm using the Apple iOS for the iPhone, so this firmware update really doesn't pertain to me. Additionally, just for reference, I typically do not use the OTG cable. I haven't since the last firmware update for the Spark that was run. I haven't had any issues not using the cable and just connecting my iPhone directly to the controller without the cable. And my signal seems to be fine. I'm not getting dropouts or any kind of signal interference or problems. So with the iOS software in my iPhone, again, I'm not using the cable for what I'm flying the Spark with, but I know that for many of you, the cable is a necessity if you're outside the US. I know a lot of folks have had issues if they aren't using this cable. In the US, it doesn't seem to be so much of a problem, but you're outside the US, definitely something that from what I hear and read on the forums, that many people are in need of, especially if you have an Android phone. So you should certainly see some improvement with the use of this with your Android device. What else? I did read through the DJI forum, and it does look like this is a decent firmware update. I do see many people saying that their Spark is running successfully with the cable using this firmware update, again with an Android phone. There was one other piece of information. Again, when you're doing your firmware updates, you can either do it directly through the DJI GO 4 app, or you can do your update to the firmware with the DJI Assistant 2. And again, in the link that I'll put in the description below, if you're not familiar with how to do those updates, there's a brief tutorial there below the announcement that DJI left on exactly how to walk through the process. It's very simple, but you'll find little video clips in that link below if you want to check those out as well. So I hope you found this information useful. Again, this was a firmware update release dated July 19th, 2018, so it's recent. And if you find the information, again, I'm posting to the channel to be informative or helpful, useful to you, I appreciate it if you would give it the video a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell. It might be over here. Ring that notification bell so that you get notified of future videos. Don't forget, you can also follow me on Instagram. I've been quite active on Instagram lately, so please feel free to follow me there as well. And until next time, happy flying.